Welcome back to another installment of the Remote Job series on the Life with Nate YouTube channel. So I had a revelation recently, and I realized that I talk about where to find these remote jobs in terms of job boards on the internet, which criteria to use to find the true remote jobs that could potentially let you work from anywhere in the world. But people don't necessarily know what types of remote jobs are out there. So over the next coming weeks, I will be doing a deep dive into remote jobs that you can do per different sectors. So we're talking marketing, writing, etc. And this video is designed to give you a taste of 7 remote entry-level jobs that you can potentially do, along with some examples that I found on LinkedIn to give you a better indication of what the responsibilities of said roles are, along with the educational requirements, but they're entry level, so we're usually talking 0 to 2 years of experience. Enjoy! So the first job we're going to be talking about is a data entry assistant. And so typically what this means at its raw form is that you're entering data into, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet, a database for a company, person, entity, it hardly matters. And so what you'll be doing is you'll be basically entering data on a daily basis. You'll be inputting data, you'll be verifying data entry and accuracy, as well as organizing it into a clean standard, and then in a more advanced application, potentially generating reports for a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. So that is basically data entry at its core, is simply entering data. And so in terms of qualifications, you have to be very meticulous because obviously the person that you're working for would want you to input data in a very accurate fashion. So we're talking fast typing skills, meticulous attention to detail, strong computer literacy, customer service skills in case you do something wrong and maybe they come back, ability to work independently, and then finally, for an educational requirement, we're talking a high school diploma, which is not that bad. And so for a data entry assistant, there are plenty of remote jobs out there that I found on LinkedIn and other job boards that are out there. And typically, these are freelance positions, and there are some full-time positions that I've seen with companies. So if you want to be a data entry assistant, this is a good remote job that can potentially let you work from anywhere depending on the company. The second job we're going to be talking about is a transcriber or a transcriptionist. So essentially what this is you're listening to, let's say, a meeting, a YouTube video, any basic audio or video recording, and then you're basically transcribing what you hear into written notes for a company, entity, or person. That is what a transcriber or a transcriptionist is all about. And so automatically, you have to be very meticulous with the words that you're listening to, and then you also have to have good communication skills in order to be able to write these notes in a very legible format. And so if you kind of go into the requirements here, we're talking about excellent listening skills, strong command of grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Kind of a little bit tough for me because I can't spell my own name sometimes. There's a joke in there somewhere. High attention to detail, aka being meticulous, communication skills, and then also proficiency in any language that you are talking about. So, full disclosure, with the rise of AI tools, I have noticed a bunch of AI software that can do this. However, they're not exactly 100% accurate. So these jobs will still be around. There's always going to be a need for a transcriber or a transcriptionist. You'll often see this, let's say, in a courtroom setting where they don't necessarily have anyone to listen to the meeting or the transcription, and then you'll be the person that kind of writes it into notes. Or let's say a doctor's appointment, you can be the one to transcribe the diagnosis and the medical stuff that kind of comes along with that. So this is a pretty interesting job because you're essentially using your listening skills in order to write what you hear into notes. And so I found an example through LinkedIn, and there are a lot of remote jobs from what I've seen out there, which is pretty cool. So the third job that we're going to be talking about is a remote test proctor. And so if you've ever taken an exam before, you'll always have that person that's staring at you, trying to wonder if you're cheating or not. That's basically what a proctor is. So with the rise of the pandemic, there was an explosion of remote test proctoring positions because think about it, people couldn't be in classrooms or offices anymore. So instead, they watch you through your camera. And it's not to say that the NSA or the FBI doesn't do that already, but instead of watching everything you do, it's more specifically for the task of taking an exam. Thank goodness. So with this in mind, you'll have to have a strong internet connection because obviously if you're watching somebody for 3 hours, you don't want your internet to go out and then they cheat. You know what I mean? So just keep in mind that if you want to be a remote test proctor, typically you'd have to be licensed through a proctoring service provider, depending on what the exam is. So for example, if you're proctoring a remote law school test or something, right? You'd have to be obviously certified in that law like area. It depends honestly like on what type of exam that you're proctoring. So from what I've seen, like if you're trying to proctor high school exams remotely, you'd have to be like maybe a substitute teacher with like a certification all the way up to like official exams with like official certifications. But this is pretty cool, and it's an example of how society had to adapt to a changing circumstance where just people couldn't meet anymore, but then technology filled in the void. So the fourth job that we're talking about is a Google Ads quality rater. And so this is pretty interesting because in the digital marketing world, what you're essentially doing is you're grading ads that you see for, let's say, a company or an institution that you're working for, and then you're helping the company get real-time metrics from those ads to help them in future, let's say, digital campaigns. So I'd never thought about this one before, but for this job specifically on LinkedIn that I found, it says like, are you passionate about Google Ads and Excel and client relationship management tiers? So basically, you are working for this company and you are helping them to grade ads for their clients and then also establish a good customer service rapport. So automatically for this, you have to be data driven, obviously, because you're looking at metrics. So for example, click-through rates, audience retention, et cetera, project management to make sure that you can balance like multiple campaigns going on with the ads, client interaction. So this job will have you potentially interacting with a lot of clients that want to get their product out there. So you have to have good customer service skills and a good personality. You have to also be able to collaborate with people. So that's another big thing. Like I know some people that I've talked to in the past have said like, I'm not good with working people. I'm more of a solo worker. And it's like, well, unfortunately, a lot of jobs out there require you to interact with clients, people, and customers. So you have to be able to like work with people from time to time. So again, the meticulous eye to detail is going to be essential here. Excellent communication skills if you're doing like a report write up. But this is pretty interesting because I'd never really thought about this in the digital marketing world, despite like obviously creating my own social media posts for my other creative project. So with this, you're actually helping companies rate their ads that they create with paid campaigns through Google or let's say like other social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, even. You know what I mean? This is pretty cool. So the fifth job that we're going to be talking about is a medical biller. And I had to search this one up because I'm not really too familiar with the healthcare industry. But the role of a medical biller is to essentially ensure that the patient's insurance providers send payments according to medical billing protocols. And so in this job, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be converting doctors' notes into billing codes that facilitate insurance payments to healthcare providers. So automatically, just by reading that job description, it's obvious to me that you need a degree in healthcare administration or a related field. The LinkedIn example that I have up on the slide illustrates that for sure. I would assume that for a medical biller position, they would want to see some previous experience when it comes to like medical billing, preferably working in the healthcare sector or with insurance companies to provide information. Automatically, you'll also have to be proficient with your billing software, with whatever software that they use, and then understanding coding protocols such as ICD-10 and CBT. Don't ask me what those are. I have no idea. I just, it's interesting because when you go through these jobs, you learn about different sectors and different types of jobs that are out there. So the medical biller essentially is the middleman between the person that wants to file out the insurance claim or, if they have a medical injury, and then also the insurance provider. You have to make sure that the information obviously is correct. So again, meticulous attention to detail. And then for this job, it appears that you need to have some degree of healthcare administration. But again, from what I saw, this is an entry level role, which means that even if you don't have, let's say, like a lot of healthcare experience, you could try it out just to see like how it is. And if you don't like it, you could move on to another job. So this job is pretty fun. So the sixth job that we're talking about is a Netflix tagger. So if you've ever created a YouTube video, an Instagram reel, whatever, you have tags that you can use to classify the media that you're creating and put them into different categories. And so as the name implies, you are working from home with Netflix in order to tag different shows or TV programs that they may or may not have. So this was a part-time job that I found just through simple research. And so you'll have to have a basic understanding of how tagging and categorization for different shows kind of works, but it's very easy to assimilate. Trust me, like if I can do it, so can you. And so you're assigning different tags and metadata to accurately classify content. And so Netflix, if you've ever watched a Netflix show, they have different genres, they have different moods, they have different feels according to like, their TV shows and programs. So here you're classifying these TV programs and shows based on genre, mood, tone, and other attributes. So if you've ever taken like a basic data science course before, you'll know that metadata is the source information for these different TV programs and shows. They have different attributes, which basically mean categories. And so here it's genre, mood, tone, but it could also be like duration. It could be year for when like the show came out, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're tagging the shows, but then you're also providing feedback on the process. So this is a very interesting, it's a subderivative of the data entry job that we talked about on the first like slide slash like job that we talked about. But it's way more specific because you're working for Netflix. You're technically watching maybe TV at work or whatever. And then you can also tag these different programs and shows. Very interesting. So, the seventh and final job that we'll be talking about today is a typist. And so, as the name implies, a typist is someone that has, let's say, company documents, PowerPoint slides, etc., and you essentially summarize or type, aka type, these materials into a format on like a Word document in a brief report or a summary. That's what a typist is. And so, it's very similar to a transcriptionist in the sense where you are converting content from, let's say, like one written form to another, or in the case of the transcriptionist, an audio form to a written form. And so it's different, but similar in the sense where you are like essentially typing out the material onto like a Word document. But in the typist case, you don't really do any listening. It's simply like, you're given a document, you have to summarize it, or you have to type it out into another format. So typically these jobs have like tight deadlines if the company is like a fast-paced one. And so you have to be good with your hands because you'll be typing a lot. So make sure to stretch out your wrists and stuff like that if you're using a keyboard all day. You have to be good with grammar, punctuation, and spelling because obviously if it's, let's say, sensitive information or confidential business information, CBI for short, you have to make sure that you're not misspelling, let's say, a hazardous chemical or something like that, right? Like, for example, this job is in oil and gas, like the sector. So if you're talking about, let's say, profits for Q1 and you put like a negative $10,000 instead of a positive, people are going to kind of look at you like a little bit funny. So in this case, you have to have excellent typing skills. You have to be proficient in Microsoft Word. So we're talking like Word, Excel, Outlook, strong attention to detail. That appears to be a very common trait across all of these jobs. It's like you have to be meticulous and you have to double check your work essentially. And then you have to be organizational and have good time management skills. So that relates to the tight deadlines that I spoke about earlier. So these are the 7 types of jobs that we covered today. So we're talking about data entry, transcriptionist, a remote test proctor, Google Ads quality rater in the digital marketing sector, a medical biller, which was very fascinating in healthcare, a Netflix tagger, which is like in like the entertainment sector, and then finally a typist. So these are all entry-level roles that you can find through LinkedIn or any of the other job boards that I mentioned in one of my previous videos. I hope that gives you like a better idea of like what types of remote jobs that you can do, because trust me, there are thousands of remote jobs like out there. However, you have to be careful because one thing that I've noticed is that in terms of the job boards that you can go through, even the ones that I've kind of vetted myself, there are like a lot of scams out there. So make sure you do your due diligence and homework with those 4 categories that I spoke about earlier, like the website, Glassdoor reviews, if it's like a recent job posting, and then also kind of reaching out to your network to make sure that it's like a good fit like for you, look at their website, et cetera, et cetera. You know the drill. If you're watching this video, chances are like you already know some degree about how to find jobs, how to search for them. And then remote is like the extra icing on the cake. So these are 7 remote entry-level jobs that you can search for. I will cover many more in the next weeks to come. I hope you found this very insightful and helpful. Like, share, and subscribe for more content. See you next time.